Andy Griffith was buried 4 hours after he died, his autopsy revealed why. When Andy Griffith died in the summer of 2012, millions of fans expected a massive public farewell for one of television's most beloved icons. Instead, something very different happened. There was no grand Hollywood memorial, no public viewing, no lengthy funeral arrangements. In fact, Griffith's body was placed in a grave on Roanoke Island near the coast of North Carolina at approximately 11:30 in the morning, and a funeral spokesman told CNN it had been planned for some time. The decision was so unusual it immediately sparked curiosity across the country. Why was everything done so quickly? And what exactly did those closest to Griffith know that the public didn't? ABC News. As more information emerged about his health and the details on his death certificate, the story surrounding his final hours became even more unsettling. And it's a story that clearly still resonates today. 65 years after the Andy Griffith Show first premiered, audiences are still watching, and in 2025, MeTV's annual month of Mayberry celebration drew more attention than ever, including the first ever airing of the 1993 cast reunion special. The legacy of Andy Griffith refuses to fade, which makes understanding the man behind the legend all the more important. TV Insider. Andy Samuel Griffith was born in June 1926 in the small town of Mount Airy, North Carolina. His family was painfully poor. As a baby, he briefly had to stay with relatives because his parents couldn't manage on their own. When they finally got a house, it was nearly empty. Andy's first bed wasn't a crib or a proper mattress, his parents laid him in a dresser drawer to sleep. That was the world Andy Griffith came from. Hard work, limited money, and constant struggle. But somewhere in that hardship, he discovered something that gave him an escape: music. As a boy, Griffith was shy and reserved. He hated drawing attention to himself. Everything changed once he realized he could make people laugh. For the first time in his life, he found confidence. The quiet kid who once tried to hide suddenly wanted an audience. By high school, he had fully thrown himself into music and theater. After graduating in 1944, he enrolled at the University of North Carolina, initially planning to study theology and become a Moravian preacher. But performing kept calling his name. He eventually earned a degree in music, starred in student productions, and became one of the school's most recognizable personalities. After college, he became a music and drama teacher at Goldsboro High School in North Carolina, by all accounts, an exceptional one. One of his students, Carl Cassell, would later become one of NPR's most recognizable voices. Griffith married Barbara Bray Edwards in 1949, and together they adopted 2 children. Life seemed stable, grounded, far removed from show business. But the hunger to perform never left him. In 1953, he released a spoken-word comedy record called What It Was Football, a routine following a naive country preacher trying to understand a football game for the very first time. It climbed to number 9 on the charts and introduced millions of Americans to his unmistakable voice and comedic timing. Doors started opening. That momentum carried him to Broadway in 1955 with No Time for Sergeants, where he played Will Stockdale, an innocent country boy navigating life in the Air Force. The New York Times noted that Griffith could get laughs simply by walking onto the stage and looking at the audience. Then came A Face in the Crowd in 1957, directed by Elia Kazan, who believed Griffith possessed an authenticity that couldn't be faked. The role pushed Griffith into uncomfortable territory. His character was manipulative, explosive, and morally corrupt, the complete opposite of who Griffith actually was. According to Kazan, Griffith struggled so much with the aggressive scenes that the director kept him loosened up emotionally during the film's most demanding sequences precisely because off-camera, Andy Griffith simply wasn't a hostile person. Then in 1958 came Onion Head, a film Griffith expected to become a major hit. It became a spectacular failure instead. Critics dismissed it. Audiences ignored it. The experience shook him so badly that he seriously questioned whether Hollywood was even the right path for him anymore. So he made a decision that seemed almost unthinkable for a rising star. He walked away from Hollywood and turned back toward television. His comeback began with a guest appearance on Make Room for Daddy, starring Danny Thomas. The episode introduced viewers to a sleepy little town called Mayberry and a local sheriff named Andy Taylor. That one appearance became the foundation for The Andy Griffith Show, a series that would transform Griffith into one of the most recognizable faces in American television history. Behind the cameras, though, things were more complicated than they appeared on screen. Cast members later recalled how Griffith thrived in the loose, playful atmosphere of the set, singing between takes, trading stories, pulling pranks. Frances Bavier, who played the beloved Aunt Bee, reportedly found the constant joking unprofessional and deeply irritating. Tensions between them simmered for years. When Griffith and Ron Howard once traveled to visit Bavier at her home in North Carolina hoping for a heartfelt reunion, she turned them away at the door. It wasn't until she became seriously ill, years later, that she finally reached out to apologize. Meanwhile, the on-screen partnership between Griffith and Don Knotts became something genuinely magical. Griffith had initially expected to be the show's main comedic engine. After just a handful of episodes, he realized Knotts was operating on another level entirely. Rather than compete, Griffith shifted into the straight man role and let Knotts' chaos shine even brighter. Griffith would later call those 5 years with Knotts the best of his life. By 1967, Griffith knew it was time to walk away from Mayberry. The show was still wildly successful, CBS desperately wanted more seasons, but Griffith felt the pull to try something new. When The Andy Griffith Show finally ended in 1968, after 8 seasons, it finished as the #1 show in America. That almost never happens in television. The years that followed were marked by frustration. Multiple television projects failed to connect. A major studio deal at Universal produced Angel in My Pocket, a film Griffith hated so much he refused to honor the rest of the contract. Despite critical praise for his dramatic work, including his 1981 performance in Murder in Texas, Griffith could never seem to fully escape the shadow of Andy Taylor. Then, in 1983, his health collapsed entirely. He was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that temporarily paralyzed him from the knees down. For 7 painful months, recovery became his full-time job. The illness could have ended his career. Instead, after months of rehabilitation, Griffith returned to television as defense attorney Ben Matlock in the legal drama of the same name. The series premiered in 1986 and quickly became another massive hit. Nearly 2 decades after leaving Mayberry, Griffith had reinvented himself completely. Ben Matlock, sharp, stubborn, and relentlessly confrontational in the courtroom, was a different kind of hero, and Griffith's portrayal defined an era across 193 episodes. What audiences didn't realize was how physically demanding the role actually was. He was still dealing with the lingering effects of partial paralysis, often standing for hours in knee braces while delivering long, emotionally charged courtroom speeches. According to co-star Nancy Stafford, Griffith carried note cards everywhere and spent entire weekends memorizing dialogue so thoroughly that he regularly nailed massive speeches in a single take. Crew members reportedly applauded him after particularly difficult scenes. Article giants. After NBC canceled the series in the early 1990s, Griffith helped negotiate a deal to move production over to ABC and relocate filming to North Carolina, dramatically cutting costs while finally allowing him to stop the exhausting weekly cross-country travel. CBS has since rebooted the franchise with Kathy Bates in the lead role, renewed for a second season in October 2024, a testament to the enduring power of characters Griffith helped make iconic. Article giants. Throughout his later years, music remained Griffith's anchor. In 1996, he released I Love to Tell the Story, 25 Timeless Hymns, an album of gospel standards that connected deeply with audiences. It eventually went platinum and earned him a Grammy Award, the recognition that, ironically, his acting career never quite delivered. By 2012, though, his body had finally begun to fail in ways no amount of determination could overcome. He was 86 years old, and his death certificate listed his cause of death as a heart attack, with underlying conditions including hypertension, coronary artery disease, and hyperlipidemia documented alongside it. Do you remember? Griffith died at approximately 7 a.m. local time on Roanoke Island and was buried by 11:30 a.m. His widow, Cynthia Knight, rushed his body to the grounds of their North Carolina home, where he was buried quickly and without an autopsy. The burial was so rushed that Griffith's own daughter was unable to make it in time from her home in Colorado. Max Brannan and Sokolov Law. Officials within North Carolina's funeral industry acknowledged how uncommon such a rapid burial was, especially for someone so famous, but emphasized that the family's decisions were fully respected. Cynthia later stated that she simply wanted to follow through with his wishes. Cheat sheet inquisitor. Over time, questions emerged about whether other factors may have contributed to his long history of health struggles. Reports about asbestos issues in one of Griffith's former homes led some publications to speculate about possible environmental links to his Guillain-Barré diagnosis decades earlier. No official evidence ever established a direct connection between the two. In the end, the speed of Griffith's burial was less a mystery than a mirror, a reflection of who he had always been. A deeply private man who, despite decades of living in the public eye, kept the most meaningful parts of his life fiercely close.